Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
Together we are two of the Office Blokes.
Yep, 1, 2.
It is right. It's a true factual statement.
Yeah.
Office Bloke Daz went on holiday to go and seek some sunshine, and it's 28 degrees outside the
Let's
studio.
come over here.
So that's what you get. There you go.
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it, eh?
Yeah.
Wait all summer for a bit of sunshine, you go on holiday, hey
Well,
presto.
When I was in Cornwall,
Unbelievable.
it was biblical the week before. I had a beautiful week, and then I came back and it was biblical again.
Yeah.
They had a crazy storm on the Friday night, and I arrived on the Saturday.
Yeah, right, okay.
Tents blown down and everything.
Was it?
Beautiful sunshine for a week, and I was there.
Yeah, it's nice down there, though, isn't it, when you get this weather?
Yeah.
A bit of a microclimate sometimes, isn't it?
I just take the sunshine with me wherever I go.
Well, I'm sure you do, yeah.
That's what it is. There you go. Insert ginger joke there in the comment section. Right then, VFX artist reveals the true scale of nuclear explosions.
Yeah, right, okay. Well, these guys are the ones that do all the graphics for
I think so, yeah.
a lot of the technical type of films these days with all the...
Yeah, like visual effects sort of stuff. I think so. That it's a big channel. It's a huge channel.
Yeah.
We'd never reacted to them before, but it just came up in the feed and thought it...
It's incredible what they do these days, though, isn't it? You know, stuff that they do is so realistic.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable.
It really is.
You look at... like the last season of Game of Thrones. I know a lot of people didn't like it for various reasons, but the visual effects and stuff were insane.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, even from like 20, 30 years ago, it's come on leaps and bounds. It's just incredible.
You watched Game of Thrones, didn't you? Did you watch it all?
Yeah, I did in the end. Yeah.
So you know the dire wolves? They're like kind of dogs.
Yeah.
The reason they didn't feature in the last season is because they ran out of VFX budget. Apparently they didn't have the budget to put the dire wolves in, so I think they appeared once in the final season just running next to someone into battle.
You can imagine how much time and effort it takes doing stuff like this. Honestly, you really can.
Well, let's check this out then. This is VFX artist reveals the true scale of nuclear explosions. Let's go for it.
This is downtown Los Angeles, and I'm going to blow it up with a nuclear bomb. Okay, not actually. That would be too expensive, but I am going to use visual effects to show you what that would look like.
That's the only reason.
Just expensive. I was thinking that.
Don't give this guy millions.
Not the millions of deaths of innocent people.
You are very familiar with nuclear weapons. I mean, they're depicted in movies all the time. However, they never do a good job of showing what actually happens during a nuclear explosion. I mean, this movie would have you believe that you could survive a nuke just by getting in your fridge.
That's not how the Force works.
Even when we look at real test footage, it's still difficult to truly understand the power that's on display. They're always in these desolate, remote locations with nothing nearby to visually compare their size to. At least this test in the ocean had battleships for scale. On their own, it's just really hard to grasp the true magnitude of these explosions. Take a look at this shot.
Wow.
If you saw the movie Oppenheimer, then you're already familiar with the first test of a nuclear bomb, Trinity. Sure, it seems powerful, but it's not until I put the 900-foot-tall Eiffel Tower next to it that you can begin to grasp its true scale. Now, imagine instead of blowing up this bomb in the desert, it actually blew up in downtown Los Angeles. Well, you don't have to imagine this.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, trust, we'll come back to this in a moment, so stay tuned. I just wanted to give you some context first, because let's be honest, this is kind of weird. It's hard for me to make a video in my upbeat tone about weapons of mass destruction, so I'm going to focus on the science behind the explosion itself, because that is truly mind-blowing. Explosions are actually pretty simple. They're just huge releases of energy over a short amount of time. Now, the vast majority of explosions are the result of chemical reactions, such as the gunpowder that fires bullets, or military explosives that use TNT.
'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite, TNT, and I'll win that fight!
Okay, quick clarification about TNT and dynamite, because a lot of people seem to think that they're the same thing, but they're not. Dynamite is solidified nitroglycerin, which is very unstable and dangerous.
This is not the way you transport nitro...
On the other hand, TNT, or trinitrotoluene, is so safe and shock resistant that it took 30 years for people to even figure out that it could explode. People used to use it to, like, dye their clothes yellow. I'm not kidding. These days, however, TNT is one of the most commonly used explosive chemicals in the world, used for everything from geological surveys to hand grenades. Did you know that hand grenades just have TNT inside of them? Because I didn't. I mean, I do now. You do too. Nuclear bombs, however, just hit different. In movies, you can always tell it's a nuke because there's a mushroom cloud. It's a very distinctive shape. However, this shape isn't actually exclusive to nukes. Mushroom clouds occur from any sufficiently large explosion. It's just how thermals work in the air. In fact, the first documented example of a mushroom cloud is from the 1700s. So how do nukes hit different? Instead of a chemical reaction, it is a nuclear reaction. And thanks to this dude who had special relatives, we have the equation E equals mc squared, which basically just means that energy is the same thing as mass. Stuff can be converted into pure energy, and pure energy can be converted back into stuff. So in a nuclear explosion, stuff like uranium ascends beyond its three-dimensional form to become pure energy. And it is a lot of energy. Yeah, so notice that little c squared from the equation? That stands for the speed of light times the speed of light. So energy is actually equal to the mass of something times 90 quadrillion. You don't need a lot of mass to equal a lot of energy. For example,
Is that clear? I don't know what he's saying, but I like it.
Was he talking about the C in that equation being uranium or plutonium or something? Is that what he was inserting in there to make the equation like that? Do you think?
I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure.
It's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it?
It is indeed. Very interesting, though. I must admit.
Single drop of water has a mass of 0.05 grams. It's a tiny, minuscule amount of water. But even converting just this much mass into energy would yield an explosion as large as the one we saw in Beirut in 2020.
Seen that, haven't we?
Wow, that was absolutely hideous, wasn't it?
This tragic accident was one of the most powerful non-nuclear blasts in history. It had enough concussive force to shake the entire country of Lebanon, and yet it was still only a 20th the size of the Trinity test. While the Beirut explosion was caused by a warehouse full of ammonium nitrate, Trinity was fueled by a core of plutonium just the size of a bowling ball. Nukes release so much energy that a new unit of measurement had to be formed. 2 months before Oppenheimer detonated the gadget, they blew up 100 tons of TNT, or 0.1 kilotons. This explosion was literally humanity making a big mark in the earth and going, yep, that's my measuring stick now. And this is how physicists were able to figure out that the size of the Trinity explosion was the equivalent of 21,000 tons of TNT, or 21 kilotons.
Wow.
But here's something crazy. In 2021, they actually reanalyzed the data and determined that the actual yield of this explosion was 25 kilotons. So, yeah, as if that distinction even matters when you're blowing up a city. Speaking of which...
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the first 1/1,000,000th of a second after nuclear detonation, the heat is already so extreme that a ball of plasma forms. It's a fireball.
Does it explode in the air?
I think they do, don't they, mainly?
Do they?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's just off the ground.
Ah.
Yeah.
I assumed it was on impact and something triggered it.
Yeah, I think it's... I'm not sure how high or anything, but yeah, I think it's usually just before.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So hot, it reduces everything inside it to subatomic particles. The core of our star is 15 million degrees Celsius, making it the hottest point in the entire solar system. But for a brief moment in time, it becomes the second hottest point because the core of a nuclear fireball can reach 100 million degrees. To put that in perspective, that's 20,000 times hotter than the vaporization point of diamond, one of the most resilient materials in the entire universe. So it doesn't matter if you're in a fridge or a bunker made of diamond. If you're inside of this fireball, you will get deleted from existence. All of this heat radiates outward at the speed of light, instantly scorching anything unfortunate enough to be within view. This real test footage shows the paint getting vaporized at the moment of detonation. It's quite literally a laser engraver, but like everywhere. Anything combustible immediately ignites on fire, including everything within a mile of this explosion. All the people within a 1.5 miles would receive third-degree burns. It's a burn so bad you don't even feel it. And looking at this test footage, what I find fascinating is that it's not actually windy. What we're seeing is the heat of the nuke pushing the smoke away like it's the solar wind or something. It's just that intense. The real wind and the most devastation is still to come. The shockwave is a sphere of high-pressure air that expands outward faster than the speed of sound. In fact, this shockwave is so powerful, it levels up into something even deadlier. When it hits the ground, it reflects back up to recombine with itself, forming what's called a Mach stem. It gives the shockwave a razor's edge, shaving the city down to rubble. It's been a few seconds at this point, but the explosion is still happening! The shockwave leaves behind a pressure vacuum which sucks all the air back in with hurricane force winds. It's not as strong as the initial shockwave, but this is more insidious. As the air rushes back into the city, it delivers fresh oxygen to all the fire! The rushing air feeds the flames, which create fire tornadoes that swell to hundreds of feet high. This terrifying reality is called a firestorm and is exactly what happened to Hiroshima. It was a city made almost...
Jeez.
That is absolutely horrific.
It's terrifying, isn't it? Wow. Yeah, it's just not an explosion and that's it. It's everything that goes with it.
I listened to...
Unbelievable.
I think he's called Dan Carlin years ago. Like, he had this history podcast that I used to listen to. And one thing he said about the nukes in Japan was that the Allies had already been firebombing Japan, and because the cities were predominantly wooden, that they were firebombing in such a way that created these vortexes that were like fire tornadoes that superheated the cities and were just destroying them.
Wow.
And what he said is, the nukes were absolutely horrific, but the firestorms and the sort of things that the firebombing they were doing before was almost as horrific, and it was being done on like a mass scale.
Right, okay.
And, he was kind of putting forth the argument that maybe the nukes being dropped saved people, because then the firebombing would have carried on happening, and it was almost as devastating as the nuclear blast.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, but just the thought of it and them going off in Hiroshima, I mean, that's what ended the Second World War in the end, wasn't it? But
well, that ended it for Japan because it was already over in Europe.
That's what I meant. But it's
just Jesus Christ. Hope it never happens again.
Just show all the world's leaders videos like this, and then they might have second thoughts.
Some of them that have got the ability to press the button are going to be like, "I'm a god." They've got the power to do this to people.
Yeah, but they've got the power to do it to them as well. So
wow.
Firestorm, and is exactly what happened to Hiroshima. It was a city made almost entirely of wood.
There's just nothing left, is there?
Absolute mess, isn't it?
Yeah, that got kind of real. I wanted to show you a hypothetical explosion so that we could separate the physics of nukes from the lives they've taken. But I don't think I can do that. Separating the science from the deaths? It's impossible. Nukes are not fun. They're weapons of war, and the devastation they've caused isn't something we should ever ignore or ever forget. Especially because this one was a small nuke. World War II may have ended, but the Cold War had just begun. It was an arms race between America and Russia to build bigger and bigger bombs, such as the B-83. It's the most powerful nuke in America's arsenal right now, and yet physically, it's not that big. It's 12 feet long. In fact, the warhead itself is just right up here at the front. For something so small, how powerful could it be? 1,200 kilotons. Yeah, this is a megaton bomb. I'm using a tool called Nuke Maps. If you just Google search Nuke Maps, you'll find this.
What was that first one?
25 kilotons.
And that's
1,200.
Wow.
Well, I think the first one that was 25 kilotons was the one that was tested first, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So I don't know what that compares to the one that was dropped on Hiroshima, if that was the same.
Right, okay.
Maybe they'd already upped it by that point.
Yeah, I'm guessing they probably would have done by then, but I don't think it would have been this big anyway, would it? So it's huge.
Plug in the warhead yield of your choice, whether or not it's detonating on the surface or if it's an airburst, and then you just hit detonate. This is the
what
fireball.
A dark website.
This is the strongest part of the shock wave, and this signifies where everyone gets third-degree burns. This is what the Trinity explosion would look like in downtown LA, but if I put in the B-83 of 1,200 kilotons, that detonation would look like this. It's like almost 2 miles wide, just the fireball.
Wow.
Now, the B-83 is just the most powerful nuke that we currently have in our arsenal. We've tested many more powerful nukes. For instance, the Russians tested the Tsar Bomba, which was a 50 megaton bomb. And this would literally destroy the entirety of Los Angeles. I just turned on the casualties. Estimated casualties are about 3 million people.
Wow.
Wow, just one bomb.
That's instantly.
Wow.
Instantly.
In any given 24. Because there's the radiation and stuff that comes after, isn't there?
You've got that after it as well, nuclear fallout, which could spread worldwide as well. And that'd cost, more lives again, wouldn't it?
It's so scary, isn't it?
Oh, that is absolutely... Oh, man.
I think there's a good reason why people don't normally think about this stuff. Going back to the B-83, yes, this is smaller, but we built 650. There are 650 of these things just out there in the world somewhere. That is enough to scorch every single square inch of California. Are you scared yet? I am. We don't need 650 of these bombs. I mean, whether or not we need them at all is a separate conversation, but 650? I think we can all agree that is too many. Mutually assured destruction is still assured destruction, but thankfully there is hope. Both the US and Russia have reduced their nuclear stockpile by 50,000 warheads since the height of the Cold War. Think about that
That's
for
a lot of that, isn't it?
Two nations with a history of animosity and distrust were able to set aside their fear of each other and put most of their weapons down. When I see that, I don't see a species trying to destroy themselves.
I think they do expire, though, don't they? So it's
I'm
possible
guessing
that
there's
at the height of the
I'm guessing there's a
Cold
shelf
War,
life, when some are becoming redundant then. But I think also they saw it's a bit of a... It was an arms race. It was a bit of a...
It's a dick swinging competition.
It was, wasn't it? I think,
basically.
But one side had to keep up with the other, I suppose, didn't you? But then
someone's made the decision maybe to go, right, well, we don't renew X amount of nukes.
Because the cost... that's my phone. But they cost an absolute fortune anyway. So, again, with everything else, they probably thought, actually, we just don't need this many. We just don't. So, I'm sure there's some deals went on behind the scenes between America and Russia saying, listen, if you reduce, we will as well.
Yeah,
I'm sure there would.
Probably is some sort of accord or treaty or something.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Funnily enough, I was just listening to someone talk about this on the way to work this morning.
Yeah, right, okay.
There was like a guest on Rogan, and they were trying to find out how much nukes cost.
Yeah.
And I think the ones they just talked about cost about $30 million each.
Are they each?
Each. Yeah.
Wow, and 600 of those, so...
650 of them, but then there's loads of other types of warheads.
No, yeah,
and
there's
then
absolutely loads more.
You've got all the delivery packages, like the submarines that can drop them, and the planes and everything else that needs to be invested in.
It's just like trillions and trillions of pounds, isn't it? It really is.
Each other and put most of their weapons down. When I see that, I don't see a species trying to destroy themselves. I see a species with a reason to save themselves. And that gives me hope. We need more of that for the safety of us all. But thanks for watching. If you thought the explosions in this video were cool, well, I've got something special for you. I've included a download link to a preset so that you can simulate your own nukes using a real-time sim program called Embergen.
Wow.
Not sure whether I'll be doing that, but...
That's beyond my skills, I think. That's
a really good video, that.
Yeah, I've never seen that channel before, and it was like ridiculously well produced, really informative.
Very much so, yeah. Yeah, and the graphics and everything, it sort of showed it really, really well, didn't it? Like I say, really informative. I've seen it on over the Los Angeles sort of skyline. It sort of brings it home a bit, doesn't it? Like I say, rather than just seeing it in a desert and stuff like that. And you see the people that would die as well because of it.
3 million people, just like that.
Yeah, in like a few seconds, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's madness. It's
crazy.
one thing when people are at war, and it's kind of consenting adults fighting consenting adults, if you know what I mean. And I'm not being blasé about that. Like people who've joined the army versus people who've joined.
There are conflicts, aren't there? There just is, and there always will be.
Yeah.
It's like having I mean, it's not the same as it, but people do fight, don't they? Even if you're in a nightclub or a football match, or it happens, doesn't it? But
that'd be women, children.
There'd be anything. Just it's just completely 100% indiscriminate. It really is.
It's horrific.
It's just absolutely hideous.
I wonder if, hopefully it'll never get used, but I wonder if tactical nukes will. Battlefield nukes that are on a smaller scale, because they've been developed as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a possibility, isn't it? What to mean, just to keep it to army personnel rather than indiscriminate, sort of like public areas and cities and towns and stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But you'd like to think that they won't be used either. But
well, as soon as they have, if you're going to use your tactical nukes, I'll use mine that are a little bit bigger. And
well, that's it.
It's all over.
Slippery
isn't it?
slope, isn't it? It really is. Well,
great video, though.
well, yeah, it was a really good video.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
nice. Right, I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we will see you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers.